fiery multi-vehicle crash in East York leaves several people injured. A man in his 30s arrested at the scene for impaired driving. Good afternoon. A shocking start to the morning for a suburban stretch in East York.
It happened early this morning, this crash closing roads in the area for the investigation. Our John Musselman is at the crash scene this afternoon with the latest. John.
Hi, Michelle. I'm standing on Pape Avenue just north of O'Connor. There's a slight curve in the road. This is where the crash happened. The car lost control and smashed into a parked pickup truck. Now, we do have some home security video which shows you a partial part of this impact. And in that video, you'll see that the car pushes the white pickup truck at least 30 meters. That's the extent of the force of the impact on that vehicle. Now, when police arrived on the scene, they say 5 people were taken to hospital with various injuries, all considered non-life-threatening at this point. But as you mentioned, a 30-year-old man has been charged with impaired driving. I have spoken to a number of neighbors here who said that there was a small fire in the car that crashed into the truck. A neighbor used a hose to put that out. We also spoke to the man who owns that white pickup truck. He says he just replaced it in March. He parks it in front of the house. He heard the bang. Here's what he had to tell us.
All of a sudden I hear this big kabang, right? And I figured, well, I look outside, my truck's gone, and I go, well, I guess I'm going outside to see a broken window and my truck gone. I was shocked, right? I was like, I'm amazed that a Mercedes can push my truck that far, right? It's amazing.
Now, the accident scene has been cleared. Traffic has reopened here on Pape Avenue. There's still some debris on the road that will need to be cleaned up. The owner of that pickup truck says he just can't believe how far his truck was pushed by the force of that impact. Reporting live at the scene, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
A Toronto Island ferry has been removed from service after a mechanical issue led to some minor injuries.
It's the latest incident involving the aging fleet. CB24's Beatrice Vaisman has more.
I spent the morning talking to some parents that were here dropping off their kids to go over to the school on the island. Some of them expressing to me the fact they're feeling a little bit unnerved this morning based on what happened last night with the William Inglis ferry as it was coming into shore here at the Jack Layton Ferry Terminal around 6:15 last night. City staff telling CP24 that the vessel experienced a mechanical failure which caused crew members to perform an emergency stop. In the midst of that stop, we're told by Toronto fire officials that the ferry boat essentially bumped a docking pole, and that's what caused minor injuries to some people who are on board that vessel. This is a 90-year-old vessel, by the way. It's the oldest in Toronto's fleet, added to the fleet back in 1935. It can hold upwards of 300 people. We don't know how many people were on board when the incident happened last night, but again, several people had to be checked out by Toronto paramedics. Thankfully, paramedics tell us that no one had to go to hospital. City staff telling CP24 that a thorough investigation is now going to be underway into exactly what happened. They tell us that this vessel has now been taken out of service. It is parked here actually at the Jack Layton Ferry Terminal, stagnant today as other people are boarding different vessels here. But when it comes to the parents and what they've been telling me, here's how they're expressing their reaction to what happened here last night.
I've got 2 kids on the island. They go to school at IPS, grade 1 and grade 6. So yeah, there's always nervous moments sending anybody on a vessel to go to school, because effectively this is the front door of the school for us, so we kind of just leave it in the hands of the ferry officials to get our kids safely across to the island.
We've been taking the ferry for like the last 7 years. It hasn't caused any problems, although I say that because my son hasn't been injured on any ferry, so maybe that's a little bit different. But I would like to see the city, speed up the new fleet of ferries. I've been hearing it for so many years now that they have it in the works. Still haven't heard or seen anything come to fruition. So it's been quite some time. And so it would be wonderful if they can speed up the process to get the new boats in.
This is just the latest snafu when it comes to the ferries that serve the Toronto Islands. At the start of the summer season, a pair of the ferries had mechanical issues. They were taken out, which led to really long lines here at the ferry terminal. And then, of course, back in August 2022, there was a serious incident with the Sam McBride ferry when it crashed into the dock here, injuring some 20 people who were on board that vessel. And so a lot of conversation happened happening about the safety of the vessels, the mechanical soundness as well. When it comes to replacing these aging vessels, city staff and city council have already made some moves, although they've changed their mind a couple of times about what vessels they want to replace this aging fleet. 2 new electric vessels set to come to Toronto, but not until 2026. So still a bit of ways, away for those new ships to make it here. Back to you.
Baseman reporting from the Ferry terminal. Coming up, Ontario child care centres that opted out of participating in the national $10 a day program will soon lose provincial funding. We'll have more on that a little later in the newscast.
It's day 2 of the Toronto International Film Festival, with more celebrities set to dazzle the red carpet. The
premiere of the film The Penguin Lessons is happening today, and CTV's Sean Leithong is live at Roy Thompson Hall to give us the sights and sounds. Sean.
Well, Michelle and Nathan, The Penguin Lessons is directed by Peter Cantaneo. You remember him from The Full Monty and Military Wives. They'll be coming here in a little bit, and just about 12:30 they're expected to arrive. It's also starring Steve Coogan, who you may remember from Tropic Thunder. Very funny actor, and this movie has a lot of charm in that it's about a man who's a teacher at a boarding school in Argentina, originally from Great Britain, and he actually befriends a penguin. He saves a penguin's life, and it becomes very loyal to this man. And through their friendship, he actually becomes a bit of a change agent at the school he's working at in 1970s Argentina. I know that's a lot to think about. Look around me right now. I'll take a walk inside Roy Thompson Hall's red carpet. You can see there's a fan zone around me. The fans are starting to come here. It's going to be a big day today because we're expecting J-Lo to be here this afternoon. Elton John will be on the red carpet tonight, premiering his documentary. Last night, the film festival opened with Nutcrackers starring Ben Stiller, a movie about dance, maybe not what you would think, a heartfelt movie from a comedic actor, and he was talking about the script just last night.
When I read this script, which was so heartfelt and not cynical, and the character is a little bit cynical, I was like, I'm identifying with this guy. And this guy goes on a journey where he gets in touch with stuff, you know, and connects with his family. And I think that's an important message, especially right now, you know, in the world, to have a movie where you can have some escapism, but also it's also emotional. It's emotional realism too, you know. It's I said that on live TV, emotional realism. But that's what's so great about it. It's really fun. It's a comedy. It's silly, but it's also really connecting with real things. And I think David did a beautiful job.
Nathan and Michelle, one of the things they've actually added this year to the Roy Thompson Hall red carpet is this Campari lounge behind us. Unfortunately, it is noon on a Friday, so I can't go over there right now. Maybe a little bit later on. We will be here throughout the night. This afternoon, Pamela Anderson, starring in The Last Showgirl. That world premiere will be here. I'll be on the red carpet. Andrea Case will be here for J-Lo tonight. It'll be exciting, but for now, I'll throw it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Sean. There are a few changes to tell you about if you're heading to TIFF or anywhere else on the subway tonight. Line 1 trains will stop running between Eglinton and College stations at 11:59 tonight to allow for track work. Regular service will start up again at 6 a.m. The TTC also shared an updated map of reduced speed zones that are in places on stretches of Line 1 and Line 2. Now, subways have been running slower in those areas to keep service moving safely where rail maintenance is needed.
And if you're planning on taking GO Transit this weekend, there will be a change to schedules on the Lakeshore West Line. Both tomorrow and Sunday, train service between Union and West Harbour GO will operate once an hour to accommodate tracked work. Bus connections may also be adjusted, and regular service resumes on Monday.
All right, time for a check on the forecast. Here's a live shot. The run of sun has ended. It is cloudy, and there are showers here and there. A little bit cooler as well, and the weekend will be even cooler. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. Hey, Jess.
Hey, just delivering all the good news, right? Heavier showers right now through the Niagara region. For us here in the city, we saw some late showers early on, a bit of a break right now, and then another round on the way this afternoon. We are sitting a little below seasonal today, still a bit of a humidex to deal with into the afternoon, and then things start to cool down as we head into this evening and into the start of our weekend. Still a fairly moderate southwesterly wind, so comfortable, keeping us just around that seasonal mark before you factor in any kind of heat or humidex. We're sitting in the upper teens, low 20s, and then as we head into the rest of our day, things are going to shift just a little bit with some active weather. Coming up, your full forecast right now, back over to Nathan and Michelle.
All right, thank you, Jess. Ontario child care centres that aren't participating in the national $10 a day program will soon lose provincial funding.
The change expected to impact the ability of centres to offer fee subsidies to lower-income families. CTV News Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris is live with the details on this situation. Siobhan.
Well, there are concerns that this could pose major problems with accessibility to affordable childcare and cause some really tough conversations, both with parents and childcare providers. Starting in January, the province will redirect money it's putting towards those daycare centres that aren't signed up for the program and funnel it towards $10 a day daycare. That means the 500 or so daycares in Ontario that aren't signed up for that program won't get cash to do things like subsidize rates for low-income families or to boost the wages of early childhood educators. Now, families who already have kids in those centres won't lose their subsidies. They'll be grandfathered into this new funding formula. But industry leaders say it will mean educators leave because they won't be able to handle the possibility of being paid less, and new parents will have fewer affordable options. The centres, too, could face some tough choices.
It means they have to replace the families who are currently enrolled on a subsidized basis with families who are not subsidized. So it probably means raising fees. And depending on the area where that center is located, if they aren't in an area where families have the disposable income so they can raise their fees, those centers will likely close their doors.
A spokesperson for the Minister of Education says this new formula adds stability and predictability for those centres that are in the $10 a day childcare program. She says that the centres that aren't do still have that option of joining. She also stresses that low-income families do have other means by which to seek help, like an Ontario tax credit. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Michelle, back to you.
Thanks, Siobhan. Jacob Hoggard is seeking permission to appeal his rape conviction to the Supreme Court of Canada. The former Headley frontman is set to appear at a bail hearing next week as he waits for the top court to decide whether it will hear the case. This comes less than a month after a panel of 3 Ontario Appeals Court judges upheld his conviction from June of 2022. Hoggard was found guilty of raping an Ottawa woman in a Toronto hotel room in 2016. York Regional Police are asking for the public's help investigating a home invasion in Markham following a separate similar incident this week. The hold-up unit shared this video from early Thursday morning from near the Bridle Walk and Castlemore Avenue. They say 3 suspects forced their way into a residence armed with a hammer and demanded vehicle keys from those inside. A 4th suspect remained in a suspect vehicle, a dark 4-door sedan. The group then drove away with a white Mercedes-Benz and the car they arrived in. 4 adults and 2 children were in the home at the time. Fortunately, no injuries were reported. For more on this, we're joined by York Regional Police Detective Sergeant Ryan Boulay. Sergeant, thanks for joining us. This is frightening, very brazen. What more can you tell us about what happened and where things stand with the investigation?
Yeah, it is frightening, and it's something that no one wants to be put in this type of situation. The investigation is still in its early onset, so we have released the video and the release surrounding it as we're seeking any additional witnesses that may have any type of video or may have seen something early on in that morning that may help move the investigation forward.
What can you tell us about the suspects at this point? 4 suspects identified through your investigation. Any details on them?
I don't have too much else to offer on the suspects. It does appear to us that the motivation behind the home invasion was the vehicle that was parked in the driveway. As you've seen, the suspects did force their way into the residence. They confronted the victims and demanded the car keys. So what we believe is that the motivation behind this incident was that vehicle that you've seen the suspects leave in that white Mercedes.
How is the family doing? I would imagine this is incredibly traumatic to have to go through.
Yeah, it's definitely a scary incident to be woken up in the middle of the night with strangers in your residence demanding property from you. We do offer assistance through victim services, and these are things that we offer out to victims of crime to help them get through these types of incidents.
Detective Sergeant, I'm sure you know more than anyone, auto theft is plaguing our region, and unfortunately, this is far from the first time we've heard about auto theft of this nature, where they break into a home and demand the keys, that sort of thing. In fact, I'm in Toronto. My neighbor had this happen to him, unfortunately. Is this a growing trend that you're seeing, and how concerned are you?
I mean, there are home invasions that happen which are specifically targeted for keys or vehicles, as you've seen on this morning. It is something that is driving our numbers up a little bit in a home invasion stance. However, home invasions aren't specifically only targeted for vehicles, as you've seen the night previous when we had another home invasion. We don't believe that these two home invasions are connected, and we do believe that they were committed by separate suspects.
So you think somebody knows something? How can the public help in your investigation? And I guess what can we do as residents and homeowners?
Yeah, anyone that may have information can contact the York Regional Police Hold-Up Unit or Crime Stoppers and leave an anonymous tip. As for anyone out there who may have concern, home invasions typically are not random in nature, but protecting yourself, sufficient lighting on the exterior of residence, home alarm systems, things like that are all things that can help as deterrents for these types of incidents.
Detective Sergeant Ryan Boulay, we appreciate your time today and good luck with your investigation.
Thanks for having me.
Here in Toronto, the search is on for a pair of suspects in a break-and-enter investigation. Detectives released photos of two suspects accused of breaking into a commercial property near Danforth and Dawes Road early Tuesday morning. It's alleged they stole an assortment of merchandise before fleeing. If you recognize them or have any information, you're asked to contact police or Crime Stoppers. And a man is wanted in connection with a gun investigation after a cache of weapons and other items was allegedly found in a storage locker in the city's northwest. Police say they were called after two guns were found in a unit that was being auctioned off near Torbury and Jethro Roads. 49-year-old Panagiotti Botso is wanted on a range of gun charges and 2 counts of failure to comply with the release order. Canada's unemployment rate edged up slightly in August, now sitting at 6.6%. Stats Canada says the economy added 22,000 jobs last month. CTV's Scott Hurst is tracking the numbers for us. Scott, is this good? Break it down for us.
Nathan, more challenges for Canada's labor market overall, weighing heavily on the health and pace of the economy as a whole. The unemployment rate going in the wrong direction, continuing its upward trend. As you said, the job market adding just a modest 22,000 jobs, and that is lagging behind the ongoing population growth. So these are all numbers and just another important data set to really pinpoint the pace and health of the overall economy. The unemployment rate in August was the highest in more than 7 years outside of 2020 and 2021, of course, during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. And Canada's economy has really been under pressure from high interest rates, and Canada's unemployment rate has risen by more than 1.5 percentage points since the spring of 2023, which has some economists sounding the alarm. This latest rise in unemployment comes just days after the Bank of Canada delivered its third consecutive interest rate cut and signaled more are likely on the way, and more likely on the way this calendar year as well. Governor Tiff Macklin has repeatedly said the central bank wants economic growth to pick up again, and acknowledging the job market has been significantly slowing down with these latest numbers. More proof of that, Nathan.
So numbers aren't great, but where did we see the job gains?
Yeah, the job gains really were in part-time work compared to full-time work. So this is a strong month for part-time employment. So the latest report from Stats Canada showed an increase in 66,000 part-time jobs, but they were largely offset by a loss of 44,000 full-time jobs. So a strong report and a strong month for part-time work, but really weak for full-time opportunities, Nathan.
All right, CTV's Scott Hurst looking at the job numbers. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan.
Well, we're tracking the latest on the fallout from that major move by the NDP this week. Jagmeet Singh ripping up the deal to keep the Liberals in power.
The Liberals hit another blow with the party's national campaign director saying he's stepping down. CTV News chief political correspondent Vashi Kapelos has more.
Hi there. Well, what 48 hours for the Liberal Party of Canada. 2 big breakups in 2 days. The big one most recently with their campaign director, Jeremy Broadhurst, who announced through a statement yesterday he was stepping aside from the position this year, one that he also held in 2019. In the interim, he's been one of the Prime Minister's 2 closest advisors. The other is his chief of staff. It's described to me if his chief of staff is his right hand, Jeremy Broadhurst was Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's left hand. So this departure is huge. It was tightly guarded. I'm told only about a handful of people knew this was happening until it was announced. And early reporting essentially forced their hand. They didn't want this news to come out a day after the last breakup, which of course is the other big political bombshell this week. The NDP, quote unquote, ripping up that agreement to keep the Liberals in power. There's a couple of things I'm watching for now over the next few days and few weeks, particularly in the lead up to two big by-elections on September 16th, the same day that Parliament is set to resume. Does it resume, or do the Liberals decide to prorogue, buying themselves time to come back and deliver a throne speech with a brand new agenda? Or do they come back to Parliament and call the NDP's bluff by putting a confidence motion on the table very early on? Things are going to be incredibly dynamic, incredibly unpredictable, and must-see TV in the weeks ahead. Back to you.
Vashi Kapelos reporting from Ottawa. Canada is pledging additional military aid to Ukraine. Volodymyr Zelensky has been asking Western allies for more weapons support. The president arrived in Germany for a meeting today of more than 50 partner nations. It was there that Canada announced plans to send more than 80,000 surplus small unarmed air-to-surface rockets in the coming months, as well as 1,300 warheads. Chassis assemblies from 29 armored personnel carriers are also being donated, along with 64 Coyote armored cars the Canadian Armed Forces are no longer using.
In the Middle East, Israeli forces left the Palestinian city of Jenin today. There's now a mass of damaged buildings and infrastructure following one of the biggest military operations in the occupied West Bank in months. 21 people were killed. Many were claimed by members by armed factions, but a number were civilians. Thousands of residents were displaced from their homes during the 9-day incursion. Water and electricity services remain cut.
China has requested talks with Canada at the World Trade Organization. Beijing wants to discuss the recently announced 100% Canadian tariff on Chinese-made electric vehicles and a 25% tariff on its imported steel and aluminum goods. In its request for consultations today, China says Canada has disregarded WTO rules and violated its commitments with the organization. Beijing had already announced plans to look into Canadian canola imports and start with an anti-dumping investigation.
Pope Francis arrived in Papua New Guinea today for the second leg of his trip to Southeast Asia. The pontiff was greeted on the tarmac after a 6-hour flight from Jakarta, Indonesia. His first public event in Papua New Guinea will be in an address to political leaders tomorrow. He'll also make a day trip to a northwestern town before leaving the country on Monday. The Pope is then scheduled to visit East Timor and Singapore before returning to Rome September 13th.
We've had a relatively warm start to the month of September, although we're only about 6 days in, but there is a cool down coming as we make our way in towards really the weekend. Thanks to this low pressure system, we're going to see this pocket of cold air sink down and carry us right through our Saturday and Sunday into our Monday before things start to shift just a little bit. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast. We'll break down the rain, the cool down, and the return of more seasonal weather, all that after the break.
Summer isn't officially over yet, fortunately, but it's already on track to be the hottest season in recorded history. The period between June and August was the world's hottest such period since records began in 1940. This is according to data published by Europe's Climate Change Service. It was 0.7 degrees hotter than the 1991 to 2020 average, breaking the previous record that was set just last year.
It's been sunshine and blue skies to start the month of September, but some trees appear to be getting a jump start on fall.
You may have noticed the leaves beginning to change color earlier than usual. CTV's Dylan Dyson explains why.
Just by looking at the trees, it may feel like summer is coming to an end early.
I have noticed some changing, but I've really noticed the oak trees. A lot of the leaves are falling down and on the ground.
Color change in the leaves on some trees is already beginning to happen, with weeks still to go in summer.
You tend to find sort of more stressed trees that will show early autumnal leaf senescence.
Experts say it's due to the excessive rainfall the region has received this season, more rain than any of the previous 5 summers.
You get, muted colors in a drought year. This year we've had the opposite to an extreme. So, the more stressed trees tend to be trees that have their feet wet.
Experts say it doesn't mean the season is coming to an end sooner, though it may feel that way for some.
Oh, it concerns me a lot, especially when you have a cottage.
That picture where the leaves are all different colors, the weather is perfect. It's just kind of t-shirt and pant weather. Perfect time of year.
It could lead to early viewing in the region, and the Fall Colors chairlift at Calabogie Peaks is preparing.
We noticed that sugar maples were turning early. We thought to ourselves, okay, let's anticipate this perhaps and look at our dates and choose maybe the third week of September versus, sort of last week of September.
And this early change could lead to spectacular scenes this fall.
We're primed to have fantastic autumn colors, but it all depends on the specific weather patterns. What you need at this point now is temperatures that drop down close to freezing, but not a hard frost, combined with pretty sunny conditions.
Dylan Dyson, CTV News, Arn Pryor.
Well, here in Toronto, there has been a change, but we're not talking fall yet, not at all. It's just we see that shift now and the rain arrived.
Yeah, also we're not getting as much sun as we were getting for the past few days, and also the temperature is going to be even cooler this weekend. But I did notice looking ahead, maybe I'm not supposed to do this, but I did look ahead, and it looks like the temperature is going to go back up.
It is that ebb and flow, right? We're in that time of year where we get these a bit of a cold spell, and it is going to be a little chilly as we head into at least our Saturday evening. So no spoiler alerts. It's going to be fine, and we do rebound just in time for Monday, which is really nice. It is, though, going to drastically change tonight and into the day tomorrow. And we're going to see after that cold front comes throughout the day today, it gets fresh. I'm not going to say cold, but it gets fresh. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers, you don't pay unless they win. Now, cloudier start, a little drizzle out there. We're getting a bit of a break right now. It'll be very scattered in nature as the system rolls through. Heavier right now through areas down towards Niagara, but as we get into the late afternoon, early evening, we'll see more showers move in for us here in the GTA. Just a good idea to keep the umbrella handy. If you like the warmth, though, we still hold on to a decent amount of heat throughout the day today. We have a humidex value feeling significantly warmer than we are, but today's kind of the last day of that as we approach the weekend. We're sitting at 23. It feels like 28. Central and Northern Ontario already have experienced that cool down. For us, that comes tomorrow. Holding on to a daytime high today, right around 20, kind of mid-20s, but it will feel significantly warmer than that. And then as we make our way throughout the rest of the day, again, very scattered in nature, some pop-up thunderstorms likely as we head into that midpoint of our afternoon. Into this evening, sitting around 13 degrees, so pretty seasonal, more rain on the way. And then as we approach the weekend is when we get a bit of a break from some of the heavier showers, but the cooler weather is ushered in behind the system. We're looking at that line of showers over us right now as we kind of head throughout our day, and we don't really see this push through entirely until we get in towards the end of the weekend. Timing everything out for the rest of our day today, right now, it's not too bad. As we head into about 4 p.m., we could see a line of pretty intense showers roll through, which is school pickup time for some, heading into the afternoon, maybe you're finishing work. It depends on how your day is structured, but it is going to be a little messy. It moves up pretty quickly, and then we get a bit of a break into the early evening. So if you're getting your tiff on tonight, it's not so bad, but it will be a little bit cloudy out there. We're watching for some scattered showers overnight, and then kicking off our Saturday, a little sunshine. And as the system rotates counterclockwise, we'll see heavier showers through central Ontario and along those eastern shorelines of Lake Huron and Georgian Bay before they move to us midday. And then we're just looking at that kind of carrying on. The good news as we get into Saturday night, Sunday morning, a bit of a break and more sunshine on the way as we head throughout the end of our weekend. Temperature-wise, today it's not so bad. Again, just around that seasonal marker or slightly below throughout the afternoon before the humidex really kind of settles in. As we go through our Saturday and our Sunday, we dip down again Saturday. Sunday, not so bad. And then as we head through the majority of the week ahead, as Nathan mentioned, we return to more seasonal and very sunny conditions. Michelle, I'll send things back over to you.
Thank you, Jess.
Thanks.
Still ahead, works of art that reflect breast cancer survivor outcomes and milestones, expressions of the emotional journey and hope for a cure. We'll have more in Health.
It's a very public tribute inspired by the many milestones in the fight against breast cancer.
The Bentway is home to a new art installation offering hope and raising awareness. CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan has more on the stories behind the exhibit.
Heart of Hope was created by Alina Takmilova and inspired by the story of Coral Swaby, who was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2018.
The hardest time was having to tell my daughter that I was diagnosed with
cancer.
She says the best moment was when she rang the bell, signifying the end of her chemotherapy.
When I actually saw this piece for the first time, I practically only got halfway through before I started tearing up.
This project special for me because I have my own experience with my mom. She lived with cancer for 6 years. Also, doctor promised just 6 months. You can see this is abstract anatomical heart, because heart for me is about love.
We partnered with 5 Canadian artists to create art pieces that really highlight and reflect breast cancer outcomes or milestones through the years.
Milestones like the development of personalized medicine, depicted in this origami creation by Andrew Huang, which comes together to show a woman's face. Andrew Harrow co-created Flowers of Fortitude, composed of more than 500 individually created resin flowers.
And how it's a community of people coming together to overcome an obstacle, and how there's power. There's power in community, there's power in supporting each other.
The exhibit is designed to highlight the upcoming Run for the Cure.
It happens in 53 communities across Canada on Sunday, October 6th. It's a 5K or 1K walk or run.
The exhibit will be here at the Bentway until September 21st, and eventually they hope to find a permanent location for the artwork. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
At least one province is defying Health Canada's order to destroy current supplies of last year's COVID-19 vaccines. British Columbia says they will remain available until the new vaccines are approved and available.
But several other provinces are following through with the directive. CTV's Rachel Crow-Spreading Wings has the story.
Across the country, Health Canada has asked provinces to dispose of old COVID vaccines. Experts say that's not a reason to worry.
We don't, for the most part, use the same flu vaccine formulation every year. And that's because there's surveillance programs that are in place. They tell you what the current or what the anticipated strains will be. They create an updated formulation. That formulation gets distributed.
Ontario, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Quebec say they're following the directive to throw out the vaccines aimed at Omicron variant XBB 1.5 variant. Pharmacies across the country are also getting rid of the vaccine.
I think we had probably about 4 or 5 bottles that we had to get rid of. The interest is not that great anymore. I think people may be tired of it, and also there's not too much information out there to encourage people to take more shots.
But BC says the old vaccine will remain available until the new one is approved by Health Canada in the next couple of weeks.
You would want and hope and expect the government to be a little bit more coordinated in making sure the new doses have arrived before they've gotten rid of the old doses.
While provincial and federal governments have largely scaled down their surveillance on the spread of COVID-19, but the national wastewater sampling suggests the virus remains active throughout the country. Still, people are encouraged to stay home if sick and test for COVID, with the risk of increased transmission this fall before a new shot is available. Rachel Crow-Spreading Wings, CTV News, Calgary.
And this morning, the province shared its latest update on the COVID-19 situation in Ontario. Covering the last week of August, they show the positivity rate of COVID tests ticked up to 15.8%, which is considered moderate. Those figures have been hovering at levels not seen since January. 653 hospital beds were occupied by COVID patients in that time, and 9 people died of the virus.
Canadians who've been vaccinated against Mpox are being urged to get their second dose. Canadian health officials say many people have not done that. Only 36% have in Ontario. An outbreak was declared in Canada in 2022. The number of cases dropped the following year, but appears to be on the rise again. More than 160 cases have been reported in this province alone. The country's chief public health officer says having both doses of vaccine will give people the strongest immunity.
Still to come on CTV News at noon, a warning to be careful using ATMs following a number of distraction thefts in our city. We'll have more on that after the break.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Canada's unemployment rate rose in August with an expanding pool of new workers unable to find jobs.
Andrew Bell of B&M Bloomberg has the latest in business.
Hello there, here are your business headlines. The economy added jobs in August for the first time in 3 months, but unemployment surprisingly jumped to 6.6%, the highest level since the pandemic. The data point to a Canadian economy failing to add jobs at the pace of population growth. U.S. hiring fell short of forecasts last month, but the unemployment rate edged down to 4.2%, the first decline in 5 months, reflecting a reversal in temporary layoffs. U.S. tech stocks struggled this morning after Broadcom, a chip supplier to Apple and other big companies, delivered a disappointing sales forecast. There was softness in parts of its business that aren't tied to artificial intelligence. Chip seller Nvidia fell 4%. Toronto stocks also slipped, dragged down by weakness in Shopify and bank shares. And finally, consumers worried about their jobs may be cutting back on outdoor toys. BRP, maker of recreational vehicles such as Sea-Doos and Ski-Doos, cut its profit per share forecast for the full year by almost half. Retail sales slid 18% in the company's latest quarter. The stock was down 4% in morning trading. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
The Japanese owner of 7-Eleven has rejected a recent takeover offer from Quebec-based company Couche-Tard. 7&I says the $38.7 billion takeover proposal from the Canadian convenience store operator was grossly undervalued. Analysts had cast doubt on whether the two companies would be able to reach a deal because of regulatory concerns over competition. Couche-Tard, which also owns Circle K, has operations across 31 countries and more than 16,800 stores.
A warning from Toronto police to be extra careful using ATMs following a number of distraction thefts in the city.
They're searching for two suspects after an elderly victim had his bank card taken and money drained from his account. CTV's Pat Foran has this consumer alert.
I had no suspicion until I came home and couldn't find my wallet.
89-year-old Joan Pennings of Toronto was using a bank machine in July when she was approached by a woman who followed her back to her car. The woman said Pennings' vehicle appeared to be leaking oil.
She said to me, you're leaking oil. But this was a distraction that she was doing.
While Pennings spoke with the woman, someone else opened the passenger door of her car and took her wallet.
I realized that my wallet was gone.
Pennings had cash stolen, but her credit card company detected fraud and stopped further losses. In another case, Toronto police say a senior had his card switched while using an ATM. He was defrauded out of $10,000.
The most disturbing part, I think, of this is that our victim in this case is 88 years old.
Police say in May the man was using an ATM machine when allegedly two men working together created a diversion. One man fell down and said he needed help.
Our victim, being a good Samaritan, was trying to help this suspect that was, falling, while the other suspect then switched up the bank cards.
Toronto police issued the news release because they believe there are other victims of ATM scams. They remind people to report theft right away because there are cameras on bank machines that can help in their investigation. The 88-year-old man only noticed money missing from his account a month later. Police released photos of the two male suspects. The first is in his late 30s, medium build, wearing a ball cap, dress shirt, jeans, and running shoes. The second, late 30s, medium build, dark blue shirt, jeans, and running shoes. To protect yourself at ATMs, be aware of your surroundings. Watch out for anyone approaching you. Don't engage with anyone at an ATM. Cover your PIN and never let your bank card leave your sight. Criminals may also approach you to say your tire is going flat. It's another diversion scam to watch out for. Pat Foran, CTV News.
International students in Kitchener are sounding the alarm after losing thousands of dollars in a rental scam.
And they're not alone. Canadians have lost almost $1 million in the last year alone because of rental fraud. CTV's Heather Sonoran has the story.
Harsh Patel took this video 2 weeks before he was ready to move into this 2-bedroom plus den apartment on Chandler Drive in Kitchener. There were red flags right away. It was partially furnished, and the person showing him the unit claimed to be living there, but didn't appear to have any of his own belongings in it.
There was nothing. Like, you need some clothes to live, you need some utensils for your kitchen and something like that. There was none of those things.
Fast forward to what was supposed to be move-in day on August 30th. Patel says he showed up with his friends and all their belongings to move in, but several strangers were already in the unit claiming it was theirs.
We were a little bit confused at that time what is happening, how two different groups can have lease on about same property.
They all found out the unit wasn't really available for rent and they had just been scammed.
It was around 15 people. And the maintenance guy also said to me that before us, there was also like 5-6 guys also showed up.
They were stranded and frustrated. And like Patel, most were international students.
They are taking advantage because we don't know many stuff about lease and all the things.
Other victims didn't want to appear on camera but sent more videos of their viewings days before moving in. Patel tried to contact the woman who claimed to be the owner.
But after eventually calling for like 10 or 12 times, she blocked me.
CTV News also called the woman, but it went straight to voicemail.
You have reached the voicemail box of...
Many immigrants came here for different lives and good life. So when I came here, and I also find that the lady was from my country as well. So I find it very disrespectful.
The Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre says online scams have been on the rise since last year, costing people big money.
715 of those reports are of rental scams, and 508 victims lost a total of $820,000.
Experts say when it sounds too good to be true, it usually is.
If you fall victim to the scam, you contact Equifax, TransUnion. If you've given any financial information, contact your financial institution and put a fraud alert on your file.
Patel and the other victims we spoke with say they signed a false lease agreement and paid first and last month's rent, which came to about $4,000. Money now lost.
They were very upset. Some of them were crying as well.
Waterloo Regional Police confirm they are investigating and is encouraging renters to use bank checks or money orders when possible. Do your research ahead of time and be suspicious if there appears to be urgency or pressure for a quick deal. Heather Centerin, CTV News, Kitchener.
As our coverage of the Toronto International Film Festival continues, the trailer's out for a Hindu language film making its international debut here. Amazon MGM Studios released a trailer for Superboys of Malagon. It's inspired by the real-life experiences of an amateur filmmaker in Western India who had a dream of making a movie for his town with their help. It's described as a testament to the power of cinema, and while it'll eventually stream on Prime Video, its world premiere happens at TIFF on September 13th.
Are you doing this?
Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. I'm needed upstairs.
At the box office, it looks like Beetlejuice is set to scare up some ticket sales. Deadline reports it brought in $13 million US in previews across North America. The long-awaited sequel starring Michael Keaton, Winona Ryder, Jenna Ortega, and Catherine O'Hara is forecast to earn $90 million through the weekend.
Coming up, the Blue Jays face the Atlanta Braves tonight. We have a preview of the game and some more of your sports highlights after the break. The Blue Jays will look to snap a 3-game skid tonight in Atlanta.
Oh, man, he's done it again. Towering home run to start today's ball game.
Toronto got swept by the Phillies earlier this week, despite having the lead in both games early on. The Braves are fighting for a National League wildcard spot, while the Jays are dead last in the AL East. The team has yet to confirm who they'll send to the mound tonight.
A 25-year-old discus thrower from Toronto was added to Canada's medal count in Paris. Jesse Zizou has won a silver medal in his Paralympic debut. He was in the French capital last year for the World Championships, but triple faulted. He called it the worst moment of his life. But today, he said, he cried again for a very different reason, a good reason. Canada now has 21 medals.
The reigning Super Bowl champs kicked off the new NFL season on a high note. The Kansas City Chiefs downing the Baltimore Ravens 27-20. It was a nail-biter as the Ravens nearly scored a touchdown in the dying seconds, but tight end Isaiah Likely barely touched the line in the end zone, and it was called off. Close game, fun to watch if you stayed up that late.
Some folk, yeah, staying up late to watch that one. Now it's a new day, although you wouldn't know it's been very cloudy and dark.
It has, and you'll notice the sunrise is happening later and later in the day. So if you're an early riser and you're waking up and it's dark outside, it's just another kind of indication that the fall is on its way. Temperature-wise, it's still really nice today, but we are going to see that change as we head in towards this evening and kick off the weekend. Some showers to start the day, a bit of a break right now, but another round on the way this afternoon. We're sitting kind of around 23 now, feeling like 28. We already kind of reached our daytime high, and we're sitting just kind of around the seasonal mark. Now, as we step into the weekend, that's when the shift happens. We drop down to just 16. We should be around that 21, 22 degree mark. But don't worry, we rebound just in time for Sunday.
Good to hear. Thank you, Jess. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great afternoon.
Cue the music.